Before I start, this is just a reminder, Shit's Fucked is based on my own experiences with sobriety, mental health, and trauma. Each person's experiences and recovery is different. I hope you enjoy the podcast, but please note that I am not a medical professional. However, I hope to introduce you to resources and people who may be able to help. Hello and welcome to Shit's Fucked. I am your host, Paris, and today we actually have a very special guest on the show today, which is actually my sister Capri. And she's actually coming on the show today to talk about the impacts that addiction can have on family members. So it's going to be a real bunch of hard truths, I would say. So Capri, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hi. No worries. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. So let's just dive in with the first question as, you're aware that addiction does run in our family, that as an addict, we do become unaware of our own behaviors while we are clouded under the influence. So what was the impact that my addiction had on you?
For myself personally, I guess at the time when you were going through, I guess, the very beginning stages of your addictions, you were very secretive.
Yeah.
And any time that I thought I kind of knew that something was not quite right, maybe I didn't quite know 100% what was going on, but I could tell that something was wrong, and I would sort of try to bring it up with you, you would, like, let's, call a spade a spade. You would lie and say, no, you've heard wrong, you've seen wrong, that's not what's going on. It's fine. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. So it was a lot of like false reality, I guess, because it was quite apparent that something was wrong and that you weren't okay, but you just couldn't explain, or you didn't feel like you were ready to communicate what exactly was going on because you weren't ready to probably A, admit it, and B, have someone potentially want you to stop. So I just felt very sort of trapped in a false reality where, as much as you were saying verbally, I'm fine, the reality was we weren't fine, and it just felt really, really awkward and strange. And yeah, we were just sort of falling apart. Our communication was falling apart. So yeah, I guess for myself, it was just that sense of warped reality. And that was quite difficult to sort of get my head around.
Absolutely. And, that also comes with a lot of guilt and shame. Like I also felt in a sense that I was protecting you guys from what I was dealing with. So yeah, I definitely lied a lot. Like I was impulsive liar. I just would lie because at the end of the day, it was like, one, I'm trying to also not make this problem a reality. Like I don't even really want to acknowledge that I'm in a crisis right now. And then two, it was very much, I felt like, they won't understand, like this will hurt them. I need to protect them from this. They're not going to be able to deal with it, but I can deal with it. It's fine. I'm just going to keep soldiering on and, sort it out myself. And then I'll tell them after I've actually recovered. That was actually a huge part of my story for a while. I was very much like, I'll let them know once I'm better. So like I wasn't allowing you guys to come into the vicinity when I was actually deep in the addiction. I was pushing you all away. And yeah, I can understand, like we've had a lot of chats about how my addiction has impacted on you. And, because we do have addiction that runs in our family as well, and seeing that impact on others, it's really made me reflect on myself and what my role was and how that impacted on all you guys as well. Like it was kind of a way to self-reflect on, oh gosh, like I'm experiencing this with this person who's going through a very similar thing to me. So gosh, like that must have been really, really tough for my family, going through what they did with me. Like you probably just wanted to grab me and bloody shake me and just be like, wake up from this damn nightmare.
Yes, well, exactly. And I mean, I guess coming back to sort of the impact that your addiction had on me was that we had, like, you and I had, I guess, like, especially when we were younger, our relationship wasn't like as solid as it is now, but it was always pretty good. Like we could always come to a level of like having a joke, having a laugh, being okay, being around each other, like maybe not all day, every day, but we definitely enjoyed each other's company. But once that addiction started to come in, like I was so like angry at you as well. And I think I was angry because, like you were saying, you were obviously lying and you were creating this like, yeah, this distorted, I'll say reality again, this distorted world that we were all trying to live in. And I mean, our family is a little bit disconnected in the sense of, you know, sometimes we can bury our heads in the sand and we can try to turn a blind eye and be like, oh, well, this person said that they're okay, so let's just leave it at that. Whereas that's not really how I operate.
Yeah.
And when you said, no, I'm fine, and I'm like, yeah, but you don't seem fine. And you actually seem very different in such a short space of time. For listeners at home, when this all sort of first began, we went to like a family counseling session and we did something together, and then we had to do like separate counseling. And my advice was from my counselor was to like take a break from the family and to just sort of stay away for 3 months. 3 months. So you can imagine someone who is at the very beginning of their addiction journey, what change will happen over 3 months. So I came back and I saw my sister and I thought, what? And everyone in the household seemed to be like, oh, she's okay. I'm like, what? This ain't right. What? I was like,
bunch of Looney Tunes. Yeah.
looks different. She is acting different. She went from working in admin, which was pretty standard for her, to working as a bricklayer. I was like, I'd never heard her
That's a
say
whole
she
other
wanted.
story.
Yeah, I don't think she's never mentioned she likes doing that kind of work. I was like, nothing's really adding up. The math wasn't mathing. And yeah, again, it was just that everyone being like, no, it's fine. We're fine. We're fine. I'm like, what?
Yeah, under the rug.
Yes. And just also, you know, what do you do when someone says that they're fine? You're like, you're not fine. But if you're just going to continuously tell me you're fine, like, I guess the impact is that we're not going to be as close anymore because we aren't living in the same reality realm.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I hear you. Like it's really tough. Like when you're in that midst of addiction, like I obviously wasn't seeing what you guys were seeing. I was, in my own little world, as you say, a very distorted one. And or I thought everything was fine. I actually really didn't even acknowledge the depths of my addiction for so long. It was probably at least 2 years until I actually properly acknowledged how deep I went. And it's interesting hearing, us talking about it now, like when I'm sober, and hearing that third party perspective, particularly from someone as close as you, Capri, my sister, and the impacts that had on you. So actually that kind of leads into my next question, was what did my addiction particularly look like in your lens? Like, you're saying everything looks so different, like you came back and you're like, what were you seeing?
So when I came back and I came into the family home, which again, I didn't want to be there. I really didn't want to be there. I saw you, and it was like seeing, I don't even know what to call it. It was like seeing almost like a random like dog in the house or something where you're like, what is this? Like, what? Not you didn't look like a dog, no, but like something
God.
so very obviously that like was not there before. Like, we don't have
Right.
this dog. Why is this here? So like looking at you, I was like, this is hugely like, whoa, when did this happen? And everyone was kind of like, what do you mean? She's fine. I'm like, what? She's not only did you physically look different, but you were like acting so different. Your addiction as well, particularly in the beginning, you were very snappy. You were very like quick to anger and quick to be like shut down any sort of inkling that someone was like peeling back a layer of like, hold on a minute, what's behind this? You were very quick to sort of stop that from happening. Another I guess another thing that I really noticed, and look, you as a person have always been quite impulsive, like, but I would call a lot of the things that you did previously as more of like a dreamer. Like, you were more of a big ambitious dreamer. Like, you had all these amazing dreams and things that you wanted to achieve, and you just sort of just went for it, and then it either did or it didn't work, you know? But when the addiction sort of set hold or took hold, it was your impulsiveness became like so bizarre. Like, for example, when you made the choice to leave for Melbourne, I just remember thinking internally first before I externally expressed myself. But I remember thinking, why is there such a rush? You don't have a job. You haven't really got anywhere to live. Like, you can live with our auntie, but that'll be available later anyway. Like, it's not like you have to get there to, move in there anytime soon.
Yeah.
You didn't really have a big circle of friends there or anything. And it was just this random, like, desperate need. And not only that, but you also didn't have the funds. Like, there was no real money to do this trip. So I remember saying to you, why are you so desperate to go? And you were like, oh, like, I'm so sick of Perth, and I'm so sick of this. And I was like, yeah, but, shouldn't you maybe leave end of the year or, middle of next year, like, get a little bit more savings? But I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm just going to go now. And also that created some sort of tension for myself, because I had been used as like the safety net for many members of our family when they had made an impulsive choice and then they ran out of money. So in a way, I was kind of like, well, don't message me when you have no money, like,
yeah.
you want to go and do these crazy things, but like, don't come knocking on my door when you're like, hello, I accidentally came here too soon and I have $0. Help me. Like, of course I'm going to help you, but I'm really annoyed about it.
You're like, but I don't want to.
Yeah. And I mean, it did actually get to a point where I stopped helping you. I stopped giving you money because it was like, I'm not helping you. I don't think, the old saying, teacher, give a man a fish, he eats for the day. Teach a man to fish, he can eat for life. Like, it's the same principle. I feel like, why do I just give you money when I could help you earn your own money? Anyway, your addiction just seemed like chaotic, unthought through, like, just impulsive. Like, you just were going a million miles an hour, and anyone that was like, have you considered? It was like, no, like, you just really did not appreciate anyone putting their hand up being like, I just don't see why this needs to happen right now.
Yeah. No, and there was such a huge sense of urgency when it came to Melbourne, because I actually was sober at that time. But the thing was, I was still definitely in recovery. Like, it was still quite an active recovery. I was still very early in recovery. So listeners out there as well, I have attempted recovery many a times. So this was the first of many. So before I went to
Very
Melbourne,
proud.
yeah, thank you. I did recover. I think it was for almost 2 years, and then yeah, it was. I was still feeling like I still wasn't okay. Like um, I didn't feel like that it. I just felt like I needed to get out of there. Like I could not support myself in that moment. I didn't feel like I had anyone to lean on, but I was also my own like worst enemy because I one wasn't reaching out and I was lying and just being like everything's fine because I
Yeah.
wanted to do it myself. I just had this, I don't know, I was just really really stubborn about it, and I really did not want anyone like coming in close. I was like, I knew that things were not good. I did not want people getting in too close to see that. I was like, this is my shame bubble. Let me be in my shame bubble, and can everyone just fuck off? Like that was
Yeah.
really where I was at. And, trying to fleet off to Melbourne, a lot of that time as well, I wasn't really considering other people's feelings. Like I didn't even think for 1 second how me leaving Perth would impact my family and how they would feel about it. I don't think I even asked you guys. I was just straight up like, I'm going, see ya. Like, see you
I
never.
mean, I don't think that that's an issue that you didn't ask. I think it was more just that sense of urgency that was well, mainly to myself. I was concerned about that level of urgency when, again, it wasn't adding up. Why? And I already
Yeah.
knew something wasn't right. And I had inklings from the grapevine about what was going on.
Good old grapevine.
Good old grapevine. But it's interesting as well that you're talking about that shame bubble and how you wanted to keep people out so that you could kind of almost like try to resolve what you were doing at your own pace without any,
Yes.
involvement of others. And, would it be fair to say that during that time that you were in that shame bubble that you didn't quite realize how big a job that was going to be? Like, did you just
Yeah.
think like, I'll be fine. Just give me one weekend and I'll be right. Like, was it just like, if everyone could just back off, I could actually focus and I'd be
Yeah.
fine. But everyone keeps questioning my motives and,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Not.
you have no money. Stop messaging me. Like, get out, like get away from me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think honestly, having those extra voices around when my own inner demon voices were so strong, um, it was kind of irritating. Like, and drugs also do that. It does make you quite irritable. So I would get very, like, oh, just like fuck off, like go away. Like I couldn't deal with anyone else's input, no matter how big or small, because my little world was so chaotic. It was fucking chaos. Like it was so hard to even be in my own shame bubble. Like it
Yeah.
was so hard and it was so exhausting. So anyone trying to step in and put in their word, I just could not deal with it. I was like, I can't. I'm already stretched. I'm at my limit.
Yeah.
I've hit my bubble. I
Yeah.
can't do much more outside of this bubble right now. And it's
Yeah.
unfortunately that lasted for quite some time, me being in
Yeah.
that bubble. And
Yeah.
honestly, that was probably because I did not realize how big of a problem it was. Like it's not like I was sitting in that bubble being like, gosh, like I got a really bad addiction going right now, like I should probably sort my life out. Like it was very much like dealing one day at a time, even an hour at a time during the day. It was going very slow for me and just trying
Yeah.
to merely survive. That I was in survival mode. That was where I
Yeah.
was at. And it was tough to let anyone in. But coming back from that now and looking at that accountability and acknowledging how that behavior would have impacted on others, I can see that would have been quite difficult to be, looking inward on for yourself.
Mm. And look, I mean, even like you'd moved to Melbourne and you'd gone to stay with a family member. And I think as well, like, and I wonder if other people can relate to this, like you being in your shame bubble, thinking that you're A, protecting people by keeping people out, and B, that you actually are figuring it out. And Whereas the rest of us, again, that distorted reality where you think it doesn't look as obvious as it might look to other people. So other people are in like a whole other realm of concerned, like, well, in just a deeper realm of concern for you than you are for yourself at that moment. So like looking in, and, you know I was in a very deep place of concern for you, to the point where like I would feel sick about how concerned I was. But I also, now I recognize that you couldn't understand that exactly how concerning things were even for yourself at that moment, because everything was happening too quickly for you inside that bubble that you created, and you were still, trying to, I guess, lessen the pain with your addictions. So you were never really moving out of that bubble. And so what you thought you were protecting everyone else from was actually just like a glaring high beam, and everyone was looking at it like, we can see that this ain't right. And you're like, no, I'm good. And I know as well, like,
all good.
yeah. Whereas it was actually like this giant ball of light that was like literally had all eyes on you, like, this ain't right. And you're in there like, everyone back away, like, it's not a big deal, it's fine. And it's like, it's actually on
You
fire.
are overreacting.
Yeah. And I mean, I can understand as well, like, you started to do things like trying to be like discreet, I guess, with all of your the things that you were trying to do, and also the ways that you thought were best to pulling yourself out to whatever capacity that was at the time. So it might not have even been
none.
But I mean, for yourself, like, you were trying to pull yourself out of different situations all the time. So whether that was pulling yourself out of addiction, which you might not even realize that was something that you were even actively trying to do, or you were trying to pull yourself out of like a financial situation, or pull yourself out of a situation with friends, or pull yourself out. Like, there was always a situation you were trying to pull yourself out of. So everyone was kind of like getting, probably putting too many like hands in the pie, like trying to help you, and you were shutting down massively. So again, to talk about what your addiction looked like: impulsive and just like full-blown shutdown, like complete denial of anything going on, and also to the point where I'm just going to emotionally disengage from everyone. Like, I mean, you probably do remember, but we would have arguments over something that, like, in my reality, I just asked a question and it's turned into this giant thing, but I'm not backing down. I'm not going to back down because I need this question answered, because I'm genuinely concerned. Whereas me asking that question is,
I was like, I've been attacked.
Yes, triggering the fuck out of you. And I'm like, well, I'm still here on the front line, like, guns are blazing. Like, I'm not letting this go. I've come this far.
And then you were super annoying to me. Yeah. I was like,
annoying.
God, let it go. Just leave me alone.
Yeah, get away. Like, you're not allowed in this space. Like, this is my private
Get out of my
chaos.
shame bubble. Yeah.
Exactly. And I like penetrated my way in, breaking down the walls. And look, was that the right way to go about it? Probably not. Did I know any other way?
Did it work? No.
What? No. Did I know any other way? No. Was I desperate enough to go for it anyway? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And did I make it harder for our relationship? Yes.
100%.
Yeah. It was hard.
Yeah.
So I can understand that feeling from like the perspective of a family member who's like, I'm not giving up, and I'll be annoying, and I'll be here just trying my best. And look, you might get stuff thrown at you. You might, and not that's what you did, but you could be getting stuff thrown at you, verbal abuse, complete annihilation. Like, they will stop speaking to you completely, which you gave me the cold shoulder quite a bit. The old ice out. And I'm not talking like an ice out for like a week. I'm talking like an ice out for a month over something that just never got resolved. And it's just
and time went really fast for me because, for my listeners, meth was my poison. That was my choice of drug. And things moved quickly when you were dabbling in that. So, days became months. And, I often didn't realize how long it had been since we had spoken.
Yeah. And then I'd just be patiently waiting for her to like respond, hoping it would be this day, next day, maybe next week, maybe the week after. And then it's just like stewing for me because my time is just going regular speed, normal,
Yes.
tangible time that we've got for
Not crack
everyone
speed.
else.
Yeah.
Not crack speed, no. So yeah, that was hard. Yeah, but
Hmm.
the addiction looked like I'd lost my sister as well. Like it was very apparent that you as a person were no longer there, and I didn't really know. There was also times where I was like, do I just give up the fact that she's gone? Like, do I just sort of mourn the loss of her and just give up? Like, what's better? Like, do we just
Like, can I keep witnessing this? Like, this is hurting me,
do I keep witnessing this? Do I keep trying to like show her that I'm here, or do I just literally turn the other cheek and just go? Like, and neither of them are the easier option. There's no easier option. They're all shit options, but you have to pick one. Like, you have to pick something, and none of them are good. And I chose to, keep hanging out with you, which do I regret it now? It's hard to say.
Well, look,
No,
we've
I'm
come
glad
so
I
far.
stuck around.
Look, I'm glad I came around. I was not really one to easily have any sort of relationship with for quite some time. And that's the other thing as well. And this is what I can imagine would be really hard on a lot of family members as well as close friends who are witnessing their loved one go through this, is that you feel so helpless. Like, you feel so helpless. Damn you, fruit fly. You feel so helpless. And it's just one of those things where, what is the right answer? Everyone gets really stuck on what is the best approach? How do I help this person through this situation? Even though, say, for example, there's someone, I know you're saying that I didn't do this to you. To be honest, I've got massive gaps in memory. So I couldn't tell you if I did or didn't. You said I wasn't really abusive. Like, I wouldn't contact you and be like, you son of a bee, blah, 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 blah. I didn't do that.
Never called me a son of a bee. No.
Okay, good.
No, your biggest, like, I guess the biggest way that you showed me that you were angry at me was by icing me out.
Right.
And I guess deep down you knew that probably was going to hurt me more.
But to be honest, I didn't. I wasn't thinking about you at all. And that's the horrible
good, even
truth.
better. Wonderful. Good to know. Anyway, I'm going to go. Thanks for that. Wipes away single tear.
We're being honest. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about you. I was thinking about me because I was the priority. All right. It was me and it was my world and you were just living in it. So
I wasn't even living in it. I was banging on the outside, trying to get into it.
True.
She left out in the cold, trying to get into the nightclub. Not really.
No, absolutely. And one of those things as well is like when it comes to, what do we do? It's just a bit like, yeah, it's hard when you've got someone that's going through addiction who is being very abusive and who is really hurting you on that consistent level or icing you out, both are very hurtful. And knowing, where do I draw the line? Where's that line where, I'm at least protecting myself, setting some kind of boundary so this person can no longer hurt me to the point that they are. But, also trying to navigate, but how can I still be there for them when they need me? I'm scared for their safety and their well-being. And I don't want to completely lose touch with them because what if something really bad happens? Going it through those, different types of thoughts and feelings can be really, really hard to navigate as someone who's, got a loved one going through that. So what would you say was something that you did, or was there anything that you did for yourself to support yourself during that time? I mean, it's been a long journey for both of us learning how to self-care and, you know, look after ourselves, set boundaries as well. So
Yeah.
what were you doing during that time to protect yourself and look after yourself?
Honestly, nothing. And it is actually quite, um, it makes me quite sad to think about this question, um, really, because I didn't actively start looking after myself and my mental health until 2017. That was when I actively knew that I deserved to feel okay. Because up until then, I was in this massive belief that I was fine. So, you know, talking about our shame bubbles and pretending we're okay, I was in
Mm,
my own, basically being like, I'm fine. And yes, there's a lot going on in our family, and there's a lot going on outside of my family for myself. And I've gone through a lot outside of those two things as well, but I'm fine. Don't worry about me, because we've already got someone clearly like not coping on one side, and then on the other side we've got other people not coping. So I've got to cope, and I'm just going to pretend that I'm coping, and I'm just going to do it, and I'm just going to put my head down and keep going. So I didn't really support myself or care for myself. I just sort of like chugged on, which led to feeling like worthless. It led me to feeling like I didn't deserve true rest without recognizing that truly at the time. Like,
mm,
upon reflection, I can understand why I did what I did, because I did genuinely think that, you know, someone needed to just have their shit together, and it wasn't me. Like, I didn't have my shit together. I was falling apart internally, and I didn't really know what to do, but I was just like, oh well, like someone has to have their shit together, so it's going to be me. So I did
mm.
things like I studied, I kept getting promotions at work, like I just sort of kept pushing through and all of that. So yeah, 2017, pivotal moment for myself, ended a 10-year relationship. And I guess also coming out of that and like looking around and being like, oh my God, like look at this family situation. Like this does not work at all. And that was really the moment that I started to go to like intense therapy. I started to, yeah, I was actually seeing like a psych properly. I was doing a lot of yoga. I started teaching yoga. I I just really started to choose myself, and I would set very strong boundaries with family. And that included yourself.
Mm.
You know, we got to points where, you know, I wouldn't chase you as much, or I wouldn't hound you to hang out or catch up or whatever. It was sort of like, no, no, like that's okay if we don't catch up, because, you know, ultimately you're kind of stressing me out. So if I don't see you or we don't talk, I'm not going to let that ruin my month. Like I'm going to be fine. So it really did take to like, and that's how many years were you already in your addiction by that point? 3?
Well, it started in 20 start of 2014,
Okay,
and
so
then
maybe even
yeah,
3 and a bit
it's going on
years.
for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, by that point, you'd already been in like an addiction realm for at least 3 and a bit years. And then that's when I decided to truly take care of myself. And I mean, I guess now what I do is I I set very, very strong boundaries. And you know, as you mentioned in that first question, we do have addiction in our family, and depending on the level of um I guess depending on how upset that person in the family, whoever that might be, has like been towards me, or how aggressive or angry or whatever we want to call it towards me, depends on how strongly my boundary is now. Yourself,
Mm,
you never treated me like the worst you treated me was the icing out. So I guess I always kind of had hope that you would defrost to me. So I wasn't like, you're a dangerous person, I can't be around you, like your morals are like so against my morals, and I just don't see us. I don't know how to mend this. Whereas other people, now I'm like, look, you are dangerous, and whether or not you change and have the ability to know, like, you know, do what you've done, Paris, which is amazing, to have that self-reflection and be like, I treated people like shit and I do need to apologize, and it's okay that people might have stepped away from me because maybe I can get them back, or maybe I do have to just acknowledge the fact that I fucked up and that person's now out of my life. But like, not holding on to that pain of like, I fucked up and I've lost this person. It's like, mistakes from the past have created the new path, and it doesn't matter now. Like, I've forgiven myself, and I'm trying my best to do well. So I would just say that, to me, like, now setting those boundaries and also having that conversation with myself, being like, do I find this person dangerous? Does this person make me question like my sanity? Does this person make me feel like I'm the problem? Like, are they gaslighting me? Like, what is happening? And if they are, I'm sorry, but you're out, because I can't live like that anymore. And I can't live in this land of, I hope they will come around. Not to say that I don't hope from afar, but I just don't let it be something that I surround myself with anymore. Whereas I used to. I was always trying to sort of fix the problem, I guess. I was the fixer. And I now know that that's definitely not what no one really needs. No one needs the fixer. They need the listener. They need the reliable person that's in your life. Like, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And look, it's really tricky to navigate all of that as well, especially when, you know, you haven't dealt with something like this before. You know, I was probably, I don't know, was I your first experience with dealing with someone close to you who went into addiction as bad as I did?
Look, I guess in the sense of the closest person, yes. I have had friends, unfortunately, slip into those realms, but they weren't like best friends. You know, they were friends, and it was like, it was sad, but I just sort of watched from afar and hoped that they got back on track, and it just wasn't my cross to bear. You know, I just sent love from afar and just didn't really let it faze me too much. And I know that sounds maybe a bit icy, but you can't help everyone. And then when someone like your sister goes down that path, it's like, well, damn, like, I don't want her to go down this path. Like, now I'm invested in getting this person off this path, and I will throw all of my time and energy into trying to fix that. And I'll take every phone call, even if it is 4 a.m. I'll take that phone call just in case. And then when it's just a bunch of gibberish, you're like, oh, damn it. But also, like, again, trying to show that person that I'm here. I'm annoyed at you. I'm angry at you, but I'm here.
Yeah.
That's
the hard balance, though. That's the tricky part, is, you know, making sure that you're looking after yourself, but then still wanting to be available when that person is, you know, needing that help. So one thing that I would even say to our listeners out there is, when it does come to addiction, it is really, really hard to fix that. You can't fix that. You can't do anything to make that person better. I mean, all you can do really is show love and support. But even then, if they're coming back at you and they're, you know, being really abusive, or they're icing you out, or whatever, they're treating you in some way that is so hurtful to you, it causes you pain more than once, like on a continuous level, that's when you need those strong boundaries. Like, you can always set that boundary and still let them know that you'll be here, you know, when they're ready to get better. But you just can't be in their life until they take that step. I think that's the best way to go about it, because they're not going to do anything until they're actually ready. I mean, even for myself, as I was explaining before, being in my little shame
Yeah.
bubble, I did not realize the gravity of my situation. I didn't even know where to start with getting help. And if I had people before I was ready to actually, because I wasn't openly talking about it, I was shutting you all down. I was feeding all the lies. I was so scared of, telling anyone, about what I was experiencing and what I was doing to numb myself, to help myself, because that was what was fixing me at the time. Like, that was what was getting me through my days, as sad as that is to say. But that was my major coping mechanism, was meth. And I mean,
Yeah.
I wish
Oh,
I wish I picked a better one, but
uh,
unfortunately, shit happens. Shit's fucked. So I went down that
sucks.
path. I went down that path, and I've come out of it so much stronger. I have, my life has really turned around. But I wouldn't have reacted kindly to anyone who was getting in my face and being like, "You need to go to rehab," and I'd be like, "What? Rehab? I don't even do drugs. What do you mean?"
Yes.
Like, I would just
Complete
be
denial.
on the defense. Yeah. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I would be very attacked on that, in that manner. And that's because I wasn't ready. I wasn't
Yeah.
ready. And yeah, I think that's the most important thing. But you also don't want to enable someone either, like, by constantly, giving them money and,
Yeah.
providing them even a place to stay sometimes can actually still be not the best course of action to take if they're not ready to go into active recovery.
Mm.
So yeah, it's really tough. It's really hard because we love these people. We love them. And we don't want to see them, suffer as much as they do when you go through addiction. But unfortunately, the sad truth is you can't do anything until they are 100% ready to commit to recovery.
Hmm. And can I also just add on to that, though, that if you're in a situation where a loved one, friend, family, whoever is in a situation where they're addicted to drugs, and you do find that they are starting to impact you in like a very negative way where you're, you're not coping, you're finding it really hard to also come out of that, like, for the family and the friends of those people, like, you don't also have to feel shame. And this was the hard thing for me to remember, is that it's not shameful to choose yourself.
Hmm.
And as hard as it is for that person that is going through the addiction and having people leave them, you
Hmm.
can't stay attached to someone that is like consistently hurting you. And I would even go as far to say that, and this is my opinion, this is, no one has to, everyone does their own thing. But for myself, and this really sort of helped me, that even if someone comes back to you and says, "I've changed, I'm in recovery," you still don't have to have them in your life. You
No,
can
you
just
don't.
say, like, "I'm really proud of you," and then be like, "But I'm still going to need space." And
Yeah.
you might never come back to that person. And like, just know that that is also fine. And, for myself, for example, there's some people that maybe it's been too many times. And look, this is not even necessarily referring to drug addiction, but just empty promises. And that's not to shame anyone who's trying to come out of addiction, because sometimes the promises aren't going to land, and that's okay as well. Like, it's all part of the journey. So it's not trying to shame anyone at all. But I guess sometimes when you've heard people saying, like, "I'm on the right track now," and this, and then they fall off, maybe you've only got so many times that you can watch that person fall off before you go, "I cannot bear witness to this anymore.
Mm.
And I have to just put that boundary in place, and that's it." Like, I hope
Yeah.
you get off, but I can't be there when you actually do get off. I can't. I've been
Yeah.
here for many getting off, getting on, getting off, getting on. I've been there, and now I'm not going to be there. And that's my
Absolutely.
active choice. And it sucks. And again, it doesn't make you feel any better making that choice. It doesn't make you feel
No.
like, "Oh, good on me." Like, it's a very heart-wrenching decision to make where you're like, I'm cutting someone out of my life that I never wanted to cut out. And
Yeah.
I can't trust that they won't hurt me again. So instead of
Yes.
even getting emotionally involved in that, I'm just going to let them hopefully recover, and maybe one day our paths will cross again. Maybe they won't. We don't know.
And
So
look,
yeah,
that is, yeah, and that is honestly, that's good advice. And that I've even experienced that myself. Like I, lost my best friend of 15 years. Like she had to really separate herself from me because I was causing her a lot of pain. And it was quite traumatic, what I was going through. And actually, being witness of that, it was taking a huge toll. And at the time, because I was, very clouded, let's say, very clouded, and I couldn't see things clearly. I was in my little chaos world. I took that as abandonment. I was like, I can't believe this person has abandoned me. And I went through all of those emotions and things like that again. And I kind of fell back into this, oh, woe is me, pity party, and that victim mentality again, which didn't help me at all. But eventually, once I actually fully committed to recovery and I came out of it, I can look back on that and be like, you know what, good on her. She actually needed to do that for herself. I was a hot mess and would not have been easy to be around. I can only imagine, what she was going through. So I'm proud of her for setting that boundary. Like that was something that was needed. Like it was an absolute necessity that she did that. So yeah, and look, I kind of went into recovery as well, not expecting to, win everyone over. There was a lot of things that I did, and I'm very much, I've pretty much owned my own shit and everything I've done. I don't like not that I don't care or anything anymore, but I've owned it so much that if there's someone that I did try to say make amends with, or I did want to apologize to, and they were like, stuff you, mate, no interest in knowing you now, I'd be like, okay, fair enough. Like I was an absolute shit. So I get that.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. And so it's tricky.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really like hats off to you as well for being that, like, I don't even want to use the word healed, but like that, having that kind of perspective where you're like, I'm not going to take it personally, because I've taken enough personally over the years, particularly with your addiction. Yes. You take so much personally. You're in that shame bubble, as you keep referring to, that, the last thing that you need after going through such an ordeal as trying to recover from an addiction is that you don't also need to feel this sense of like personal attack. Look, fine. They don't want me in their life. I've tried. I've done what I can do at my end, which is walk a path of like recovery, and I'm doing my best to stay on it. Like that's all I can really do is I do my best. Every day is a different day, and I try every day. And who knows? One day might be good, one day might be bad, but I try every day. And that's, for a lot of people, that'll be enough. But for some people, they still have to say no. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see like how people respond to someone who's in active recovery and then continues on that path. It's a lot of people feel very proud of these people because it's no easy feat, and I've never done it myself, but I've watched you, and to say I'm proud is like, it doesn't even seem like like it's not big enough. Like I need to say something more. Like I'm
so
like
sweet.
Like to say that I'm proud of you is not enough. It's not enough. And I don't know. And I mean, anyone that is even looking to recover, it's like amazing. Like, like even if it doesn't take, it's just having that moment of like, hold on, I've caught a moment of clarity. I'm back in that realm of reality that everyone else is in, and I'm going to change. And even if it doesn't stick, like amazing that you got there for a little moment, like you did try. So yeah, anyway, hats off to people that are giving it a go, having a try.
Thank you. That was really sweet. I was starting to like tear up a little bit then. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be crying on camera. So not with this makeup. Oh gosh. Well, like, would you say there was anything, or was there anything that you wished I knew, or that you could tell me while I was in active addiction? Like sorry, you to me.
Was that like, I guess I really did want you to know that I wasn't going anywhere. And it didn't matter that I didn't actually go anywhere. Like, I don't think you, I don't know. I kind of really just wanted you to know that even if and look, there definitely was an element of judging. I'm not going to say that I didn't judge you. And it's not a judgment of like, oh, you're taking drugs. It was more a judgment of like, you're being sneaky and you're not telling us what's going on. And I just hate that you're doing that when like I have witnessed shit that you've been doing for so long. Like, please know that I'm an ally. And yes, I'm not always going to come up to you. Actually, most of the time, I'm not going to come up to you and be like, oh, like, you know, soft and cuddly. Like, sometimes I'm going to be like, get your shit together. Like, annoyed. I'm pissed off now. I've had enough. Yeah. And look, there were definitely times of that. But like, ultimately, like, even with those moments of being like pure frustration and being like, how many times do we need to do this? Like, I still wanted you to know that, like, I'm willing to still be here at the end of the day. And as we mentioned before, not everyone is going to be there. And I haven't been this committed to someone who's gone through a similar situation ever. Like this, you were the only person that I was like, grin and bear it. Like, I guess I'm in it for the long haul. Whereas other people, I'm like, no, setting a boundary, I can't, no, sorry, it's not happening. But for yourself, I don't know how you got in. But somehow you won me over. And I was like, I'm staying. I'm staying. I'm not leaving.
Thank you. Thanks for
that,
I guess.
But to be fair, it probably literally was the fact that I never felt like you were a dangerous person. And that's not to say that everyone that's going through addiction is a dangerous person. But sometimes it can feel like unsafe. And you didn't feel like an unsafe person. Really, to me, you felt like someone that I just wanted to, like, you know, I wanted to scoop you up and put you in my pocket and just like feed you little chips during the day and be like, shush, shush, shush. Just stay in my pocket. You're fine. I'm going to carry you around. Here's some cotton wool. Relax. You're going to be fine.
Put your feet up.
Yeah. A little water dropper. You know, you're fine. You're good. That's what I wanted to do.
Hamster,
literally like a little hamster. I just wanted to scoop you up and like keep you safe and be like, you're fine. You're fine. But, you know, the reality is you can't do that to another human being. They're not babies and they're adults and they need to not live in a pocket. But yeah, I guess ultimately I wanted you to know that I was going to be there, even if my verbal responses to you were like pure frustration and pure like I've had enough. Like, yes, I had enough for this moment, but I haven't had enough completely
for this lifetime.
I still have, as they say, marbles in the jar for you. Like, I still had things to give, even if you weren't giving to me. Like, I hadn't, I was still willing to keep that relationship alive. And, you know, there were times when it felt like you didn't care if I was there or not. And I know deep down you probably did care.
I did. But yeah, I think when it came to you, you know, coming at me hard about a lot of stuff, that was when I probably didn't care as much. But other than that, I would have missed you if you left my life, I'm sure.
Oh, look, I'm sure. Doesn't even know 100%. I'm sure I would have missed you.
Well, it hasn't happened yet. How do I know? Maybe after this.
Just imagine. Close your eyes and imagine. I think as well, like, coming from our family, we've got like parts of our family are very passive and they don't always say, they don't always, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but they don't always know that sometimes you do have to just call a spade a spade. And it doesn't have to be in another way of how our family often reacts, which is very like aggressive or outwardly angry. But sometimes, to call a spade can be this tone. Yeah, well, this and this. And here we go. Here's another serve of reality, and I'm not hearing it any other way. And I have put my hand up for that role in our family. And I'm much better at, I guess, pacing myself to get to that point now. But I will still tell someone that I deeply care about, like, no, mate, that ain't it. You know it ain't it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it is it. So we can either, end this conversation right now, or we can keep talking about it in a way that's a bit more aligned to reality. Like these are the options.
Absolutely. And I do think it was really good that so like going on to the last thing I really wanted to particularly talk about, which was, what I found the most helpful in the ways of support from you when I was going through my recovery journey. I guess one of the things as well that I found really helpful, not so much the coming at me and, giving me your 2 cents, your 5 cents, and your 20. That wasn't super helpful. And because a lot of the time I wasn't ready to receive it. But I think what was most helpful was acknowledging and realizing that you were in my corner, and that you weren't going anywhere, that, no matter how hard things got, like, you were still my number one fan. You were still my number one supporter, and knowing that you were there really made a difference as well. And even just in the ways that we have communicated as well over the years, like we have done a lot of work on our communication. We've actually, for our listeners out there, we have actually even been to psych sessions to work on our communication, because we have very different communication styles. And that was something that we did struggle with for a while. But once we kind of wrapped our heads around, how to communicate with each other, it did become a bit easier to approach you on things, and to also learn myself how to express things in a way that is going to be effective. Like, a lot of the time I had a lot of trouble expressing how I was feeling. So then I would shut down, or I'd get frustrated, and, I just wouldn't know how to say the things that I wanted to say in a way that it would land, like, in the way that I wanted it to go. I'd often end up saying something, 1,000 times worse than what I intended. And then it would lead into this huge fight. But just having that understanding, of where I was at as well, like knowing that, this is my journey, and this is how it's going to look for now. It's probably going to change over time too. And you kind of really adapted with that change too. So there was, even a time I can recall on where I was drinking alcohol-free beer. I think it was at one of your birthday parties. You know what I'm about to go into. Yeah.
I am. I'm very.
And and we ended up having a huge fight because you said it was really sad to see me drinking these. And I took such offense to that, because I was like, mate, give me a goddamn break. Like, I am doing the best that I can. But for you, you were coming from this place of, still seeing your sister struggle, in a sense. Like, I was still in my midst of recovery. I was really struggling to even socialize that day. I was quite anxious. And I felt like those non-alcoholic beers were the thing that was going to get me through. And even though I don't feel like it really did, but it was just one of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. I think as well, for that moment, it was, you had just decided to go sober, and this was 2018.
Ugh, don't know.
2017. No, I think it was 2018 for sure, actually. And I think for myself, my understanding of going sober was like, you know, obviously to have the non-alcoholic drinks, but maybe have like 4 of them. So at the time, and like upon reflection, like I shouldn't have really said anything, because I know I was coming from a place of feeling like what you said. I was super, super concerned. So my concern came out in like frustration to you, because you didn't have 4 drinks. You had like 12, and it was a casual picnic. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you drinking so many? Like, you don't need to drink this many. And I was just really like, I guess it was also quite an eye opener for myself, because you hadn't been home for too long. Like, you were still living in Melbourne. You were still going
Yes, I
back and
was.
forth.
Yeah.
So you were only back for a little bit. And I guess I hadn't seen you. I'm not a massive drinker myself, so I hadn't really seen you drink in a long time. And so when I kind of put together a picnic, my understanding was most people would probably have 1 or 2 drinks, and that was just my understanding of it. Not even thinking about how someone who has these addictions, and look, alcohol was a massive addiction of yours as well, like a huge addiction. And for you to go sober, like you needed to drink 12 non-alcoholic drinks. Like that was to stop you from
Yeah.
having 12 beers, but I
Yeah.
guess I hadn't recognized that at a picnic you were going to be drinking 12 beers. Like I just didn't even understand that in the slightest. And it really rocked me, and it really upset me. And yeah, I did not come out, I didn't express that to you in a 1, helpful way, 2, productive way, 3, a way that we should really talk to anyone. Like it was just not, it was incredibly poor communication. And I could have said something like, watching this is really distressing me. But I didn't even say that. I can't even remember what I said, but I kind of put the blame back on what you're doing, which would have made you put that wall up of like, well, I'm trying
It
to do the right
did.
thing. I'm trying to do the
Yeah.
right thing. I'm trying to help my non-alcoholics. And you're here being like, yeah, but now that's too many non-alcoholics. And I just like,
Yeah.
I guess I
Yeah.
hadn't realized. And look, growing up with Paris, to everyone listening at home, she was a massive drinker from a very, very young age. And I had witnessed like intense alcoholism from her for a very long time. But when she was away living in Melbourne, not that you forget, but I guess you're not looking at it all the time so much anymore. So when you realize that someone can't even come to a picnic without getting shit-faced, well, hers are non-alcoholic, obviously, but like if
Yeah,
she
I was
was,
like, wait, what?
like, as in if you weren't not like if you were still drinking at the time, you probably would have gotten shit-faced.
Possibly, yeah. Most
Yeah,
likely.
like yeah, I know. And I guess I just sort of didn't realize that we'd crossed into that realm of like, oh, fuck, even a picnic. Right. Okay. Shit. This is bad. This ain't good. This is literally a park with children. Anyway. So yeah,
I mean,
it
we
was
laugh so we don't cry.
yeah, but after going to counseling with you and like sitting down and sort of learning that a lot of my communication, which can come across, particularly for Paris, not so much. I don't think I talk to many people like this, but Paris, I do. And I think part of it is the fact that I'm your older sister. And there's this
You care
element of
about
like,
me.
I guess I do. And I have some like very deep feelings of like, I need to protect you, or like I need to help you in absolutely every way. And that's something that I have had to work on myself, and I've done so in counseling sessions. But the counseling session you and I had, it was good to sort of know that, like, for Paris to understand that when I get concerned, I don't come from a place of like, I know it comes across as I'm judging you, but like, it's mostly like this deep, deep concern of like, what is going on? Like, please tell me you're not doing this on the reg, because I don't know how we're going to let you get back on the plane. Like, I don't know how I just send you off and be like, bye. Obviously things aren't good. Like, hope you're okay. Like,
Yeah.
fuck. But
Yeah,
anyway, yeah.
it is tough. It is tough. And like, look, I remember in that scenario particularly, I was so angry at your response because I guess when you're an addict in recovery, it takes everything in you
Yeah.
to be like to just be in recovery. It is a constant battle, and it's every minute, you're every second of every day. And when someone like criticizes you in any way
Yes.
when you're actually trying
Yeah.
and you're actually sober, it's like honestly that was like honestly it felt like a knife to the chest, to be honest. It was just one of those things where I was like, I am trying so hard, like you have no idea how hard this
Yeah.
is for me, and you are just coming over here and absolutely shitting on me when I tried my hardest today. Like I
Yeah.
stayed sober. I achieved that. And now I just feel shattered. Like
Yeah.
it was really hard. So I would say, for people who do have loved ones who are, in addiction and say they're at the start of their recovery journey, maybe they're not completely sober yet, but they're actually just starting to work on it. Definitely acknowledging that, giving them some validation when they have made those small accomplishments, even if it's just one day where they were able to stay sober. It's like, make
Yeah.
a fuss about it, really show them that they're doing a good job, because that's massive. A day is
Yeah.
massive. A fucking
Yeah.
hour is massive. Like, it's all massive. It's huge.
Yeah.
So I think as well, really celebrating even those moments, I think it has a really, really strong effect on the addict and the individual that's going through recovery.
Yeah. And if I could go back in time, I wish I could. I wish I viewed it as an achievement. And I hate that I didn't. It's so sad that I couldn't see how that was still better than you drinking 12 beers.
But I
Like
think as well with that though, Capri, like I triggered you so much, like in high school and even just out of high school with my drinking. Like it was becoming such a problem that, you were often cleaning up my messes. Like you were picking me up from places, like vomiting, head out the window, not well at all. And you were just so over it. Like you were so over witnessing me like that as well.
yes. And look, that might be the case, but it still is. I still had the choice to have taken a step back for a moment and reflected on the fact that even though she's drunk 12 non-alcoholic beers today, and I don't understand why she needed to drink 12 of anything, and that was literally my mentality, I could have still been like, at least she drank 12 non-alcoholics, and I am sad for past Capri that she just couldn't see that as an accomplishment at the time. And like, definitely now, like, that was an accomplishment. And my reaction probably made you feel like, what's the point in trying? And I hate
It
that,
did. Yeah, it did
Exactly.
make me
And
feel like that.
it's so shitty that it's like, and this is the other thing is like, sometimes recognizing when you're triggered, like what you were saying, like, definitely I was triggered, but that's when I could have done something for myself, and I
Yes.
think that is something that you could probably, family members, friends of people going through addiction, whether that's coming off drugs or alcohol or anything or both. It's recognizing those triggers, tapping out when you need to tap out, and taking that split second, which, let's be honest, is not always humanly possible because we are very reactive as a species. Like, it's very hard to not just be
Especially
like,
you.
yeah, well, look, with people I care about, absolutely. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's many aspects of my life that I'm not reactive in at all, and like I can be reflective in. But
Mm,
yeah, every single one of us can be triggered to a point where we're not going to give that person a chance to even explain their actions. Like, I'm just going to
mm.
react. I'm just going to say that this is bullshit. Anyway, that moment
Yeah.
at our apartment, at my apartment was just not on from my end, you know. And I think anyone that's out there that might have maybe reacted in a similar way to someone who's trying to come out of an addiction, like, it's good to reflect on that didn't work. It's good to reflect on why it didn't work and what you could have done instead. And then the next step is to now, like, basically forward plan. How would you react now? Because you can't change the past, but you can actively, like, try to be better each time, you know? And like what you were saying, Paris, like, you'd never want an addict to feel like stuck in a shame spiral, like, for anything that they've done in the past, especially if they are trying their best each day to stay clean. You know, you don't want to let shame win or guilt win.
No.
Like, they will destroy you. If you let the shame, if you let the guilt win, it's like, it's reflecting and acknowledging, okay, I fucked up and what I did was not appropriate. How am I going to be different in the future? What can I do? Or, you know, can I even just verbalize, hey, look, to be honest, this is triggering me a little bit too much at the moment. I might have to stop our hang now. And that still might feel very jarring to that other person, but at least you tried to set a boundary of, like, I'm not too sure what else I can do, but I've tried to protect us. I've tried to keep some kind of, like, I don't know, I'm just trying to keep the peace a little bit here, and this is as best I can do at this point. And that's not even ideal, but maybe that's all you can do at the time.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
And look, everyone's got their own, everyone's got their own capabilities on where they're at. But my biggest advice, and this is what I'll end this episode off on, is seek support. Like, seek support. You know, even if you're, you know, not the addict yourself, there is a lot of different hotlines, support groups, programs, all sorts of things, even free counselors, family counselors can be really good for these things, to get that support, to know how to work through dealing with a loved one who's dealing with addiction, because it's not an easy thing to navigate through by yourself. Also ensuring that you've got a support network for yourself as well, ensuring that you have got things set up in place to look after yourself and be able to keep filling up your own cup when it starts to drain from trying to assist or care for this person who's struggling, because it does take a toll. It takes a huge toll, and we do have to be really mindful to look after ourselves during those times. And I will definitely list a couple of different hotlines, some support groups that are particularly for family members or friends of a loved one, to get that support. So thank you so much, Capri, for coming on. I really appreciate you coming on. I mean, it's never easy to talk about these things. You know, it's hard for me to even hear sometimes about the impact that I've had on you, but I do really appreciate you coming on here and, you know, sharing your truth and your side of things, because I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to really understand where you're coming from, and, you know, how addiction can, you know, be so impactful on the people around them.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on. And once again, I am a very, very proud sister.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm proud of me too.
Yeah, you should be.
All right.
You're incredible.
I am. All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. See ya.
That's okay.